Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Michelle Bridgeford and I'm from Reckon. I'm a customer success manager. Now, as there are quite a lot of people joining today, we won't be able to have live questions, but what we've done at the end of the presentation is put together some of the frequently asked questions that we'll go through with you. So today I'm going to talk to you about STP Phase 2 and what you need to do to be STP2 ready on the Reckon Payroll mobile app. So just a quick disclaimer before we kick things off here. What you'll hear and see during this presentation is very general and it's purely for demonstration and marketing purposes. Here at Reckon, we're not accountants, tax or BAS agents, so we don't offer taxation or payroll advice. If you have any specific questions regarding your individual business circumstances, we do suggest that you reach out to your professional advisor, or if you're a BAS or tax agent, to your relevant professional body. So as a brief overview of the agenda, today we'll firstly have a quick recap on Single Touch Payroll. Then we'll have a high-level overview of the key changes in STP Phase 2. Then we'll look at how you manage the change to STP2 within the mobile app. Now, as I touched on before, as there are a large number of people in this webinar, we won't be able to take live questions at the end. However, we have put together a couple of pages of some of the frequently asked questions, so we'll take a few minutes at the end just to go through some of those. Okay, so let's get started. So as a recap, Single Touch Payroll, often referred to as STP, is an ATO initiative to streamline tax and superannuation reporting. It first came into effect on the 1st of July 2019. So what is Single Touch Payroll? Well, STP is the biggest change to payroll since the introduction of the superannuation guarantee nearly 30 years ago. Single Touch Payroll is the process by which employers report their employees' salaries and wages, how they report their PAYG withholding or tax, and superannuation information to the ATO each payday using STP-enabled software. Single Touch Payroll is part of the ATO's plan to modernise the administration of payroll, to move away from using manual time and wages books, and instead to use software to streamline the employer's obligations around payroll reporting. It also provides real-time data and improved accuracy as there's much less manual intervention. STP was introduced by the ATO to provide real-time visibility over the accuracy and timeliness of business payroll processes. Now, the key words to take out of that are visibility and timeliness. The ATO now has more visibility than they've ever had before in regards to unpaid super and late payments. As a result of businesses moving to STP reporting, the ATO now has much more timely access to employee superannuation data, and they fully intend to use this to better protect employee entitlements and to take action against employers who are not complying with their payroll obligations. STP does not replace your requirement to lodge and pay the current superannuation obligations via your super clearinghouse. So the next phase in Single Touch Payroll is STP Phase 2. Now, before we jump into what's changing, let's first look at what isn't changing in Phase 2. So the first point there on the slide is that the payments that are in scope for STP reporting have not changed. If you're reporting something through STP now, you'll be reporting that also through STP Phase 2. The next point is the due dates of STP reports. Again, they're not changing. You report on or before every pay event, just as you are now. And also finalisation. you're required to finalise at the end of the year, and that's usually mid to end of July. Probably most important here are the rules around PAYG and super and how you apply that to the payments you make to your staff. This isn't changing. So let's start by why Single Touch Payroll Phase 2? Why has the ATO introduced Phase 2? Well, Single Touch Payroll has proven most successful for the ATO. Not only has it eliminated the need to produce payment summaries, but it's also providing real-time data for the ATO, for employers, and also for employees. Its success has initiated this second phase to provide the ATO with greater payroll visibility, but also this visibility is also with Commonwealth services such as Centrelink and Services Australia. So STP Phase 2 provides a much more accurate breakdown of what a pay run exactly contains. Firstly, gross payments will be split out to include items such as overtime and leave, and more specific information about allowances and bonuses. Now, the reason being is that the separation of these amounts gives much clearer visibility to the ATO on what is ordinary time earnings. Therefore, they're now much more able to accurately determine which items should attract super. In addition to that, further information included will be about how an employee is associated with a business. Now, that would be, for example, on their employment basis, whether they're full-time, casual or part-time. And also, if an employee leaves the business, a release reason. So let's explore a little more detail on the key changes. STP Phase 2 is about more than just the year-to-date information being sent to the ATO. So what are these additional information fields that are now required under STP Phase 2? The first point there on the slide is the employment type. Now that could be whether you are full-time, part-time or casual. So this is the same information that you'd currently report on a tax file number declaration. The difference here is that you now report this information every pay event. So if an employee's circumstances change and you change it in your software from casual to permanent part-time or from casual to permanent full-time, then that information will flow through from your software to the ATO on your next pay run. The second point there is the income type. Now that's how you're paid. Take salary and wages, for example. More than 95% of people who report through STP would use this type. Now the ATO has introduced a couple of new payment types, some of which are foreign employment income, closely held employees, working holiday maker, and seasonal workers. And lastly, we have the tax treatment codes for payroll items. These identify factors that influence the calculation of PAYG. So it reports the tax scale that the employee is set to in your software and any offset amount that the employee has claimed. This could be a Medicare levy reduction or a study support loan. There are also others that are detailed on the ATO website, and we'd highly recommend you go to the ATO website and have a look around. Disaggregation of gross pay is a key component of STP Phase 2. What this means, it's a breakdown, it itemises the components that make up the gross pay amount. This makes for much more targeted reporting and observations to be made. So what does the ATO want to see when it comes to disaggregation of gross pay? Well, there is quite a bit, and we've listed some of these here on the screen. So there's salary sacrifice, allowances, bonuses and commissions, overtime, directors' fees, paid leave. Now that could be unused leave on termination, work cover, paid parental defence or other paid leave, deductions such as child support garnishing, lump sum E financial reporting. If you've been involved in payroll for a while, you may have had to report lump sum E, which is payment in arrears, and reportable FBT. So for more information on this, we'd highly recommend checking out our help guides and also information from the ATO website, or speak with your tax or BAS agent. With STP Phase 2 just around the corner, there are some steps to complete to have your business ready and compliant. We've made the transition as simple as possible by including a migration checklist within the mobile app. The migration checklist interrogates your employee and pay item data within your Reckon app and guides you through the process to update each item on one easy screen. There'll be no need to jump in and out of the employee record. The migration checklist is set up to dramatically reduce the time that you have to spend transitioning to STP2. So the next part of the presentation will take you through the steps that the STP Phase 2 migration checklist will take you through. As a mobile payroll app user, you also have access to payroll via your internet browser on your computer at no extra cost. Now, some of you may not be aware of this, so it's exactly the same experience, just on a bigger screen. So you can actually use your computer the same way you do your payroll on the mobile app. Now, this point is very important for the changeover to STP Phase 2. Mobile payroll users do need to log into the web app to complete the migration process. It's far simpler. The reason for this, it's far simpler to work through the checklist on a bigger screen than your phone. So when you start to do the migration, just be sure you go to your computer. So this is what the STP Phase 2 migration checklist looks like. It's available on the web access that I was previously mentioning, which is simply payroll.reckon.com. We'll go into more detail in a moment. So when you log into Reckon Payroll on your computer for the first time, you'll see that there's an information banner across the top of each screen in yellow. This includes a link that users can select to learn more about STP Phase 2 if you require more information. The STP Ready Checklist is a new feature that will help users to easily review and configure new fields relating to STP2. Changes made in the checklist will update the corresponding fields in your pay items and your employee records. We've categorised the different areas that need attention, and you'll see there that there's on the side of the screen, there's a yellow triangle with an exclamation mark in it. What that means is that further action is required. When the section is complete and all the information is included, that yellow triangle will change to a green tick. So step 1 for the Ready checklist is to complete the checklists with the information for the missing fields, for employees, for earning, for allowances and leave. Step 2 is to check other items such as earnings and allowances and for other leave. And step 3, which is the final step, is to switch to STP Phase 2. Now, until you make the switch to STP Phase 2 in step 3, any changes that are made will not impact how payroll information is currently submitted to the ATO under the existing STP Phase 1 requirements. Once you're ready and you switch to STP Phase 2, you will then be reporting under the STP2 guidelines. Now going through the specific screens. So in the employee screen, the ATO require additional employee information. There's the income type code. Each amount paid to an employee will now be assigned an income type. There's the employment type. This field currently exists. However, the options have been updated to cater for ATO requirements. And also home country, where employees have the tax scale of working holiday maker. it's necessary to now enter a home country. And to make the process easier, similar to as I was talking about on the home screen, there's a yellow symbol that's next to the employees that require updates to be made. So it's the same yellow symbol with the exclamation mark. Now there's an option to show all employees by selecting the Show All Employees button. There's also a filter option where you can enter an employee's name. It's quite intuitive. The search begins as soon as the first character has entered, so that's to help save time again. It's possible also to update multiple employees at once. You simply select the relevant employees and select the Edit Items button. You'll then be able to select the relevant option for these employees. Clicking on Save allows users to go back to the checklist to see if any further action is required. A green tick indicates no action is required, all the updates are made, and a yellow exclamation mark advises that you do still need to enter further information. Providing this information at each pay run eliminates the need to submit a tax file declaration to the ATO as a separate process. You don't have to do all the steps in one sitting. You can save as you go and come back later. In the earnings screen, there are two new types of earnings types that are to be reported separate to gross: bonuses and commissions and directors' fees. If users use these type of earnings, they'll need to be mapped to the correct reporting category. If the pay item doesn't fall under director's fee or bonus and commissions, it remains as variable. Only the variable pay item types can be mapped to the new category. In STP Phase 2, users now need to report all allowances separately. Each allowance must be reviewed to ensure that the correct allowance reporting category is assigned. When the category is Other, a subtype is required. In addition to this, if you have set up all-purpose allowances, these will now need to be disaggregated and independently categorised. There are quite a few different STP2 tax tracking types regarding allowances, and it's very important that these are categorised correctly. The ATO has a full list and various examples of the correct allowance categories on their website. We would highly suggest visiting the ATO website to familiarise yourself with these categories before completing the allowance categorisation, or alternatively speak with your tax or BAS agent and they'll be able to help you. Paid leave is no longer incorporated as part of gross earnings when reporting earnings via STP Phase 2. The mapping of annual leave, long service leave and personal leave has been mapped to the correct reporting category. However, any leave assigned to other leave must be checked and the correct reporting category assigned. As mentioned, all leave must be reported separate to gross in STP Phase 2. In this section, users will need to review the existing payroll items to ensure that leave items are not configured as earnings or allowances. If users are paying leave using earnings or allowance pay items, they'll need to disable or delete those payroll items and recreate them as leave type items before switching to STP Phase 2. Now, once you have completed all the steps, you'll see that you have 4 green ticks on the STP Phase 2 Ready Checklist, and that means that you are STP Phase 2 ready. So the final step, step 3, is to switch to STP Phase 2. And when you do this, congratulations, that means that all future submissions will be under STP Phase 2. Now, thank you so much for listening so far. We have covered quite a lot of information. If you're thinking you need a little more help for anything we've discussed today, As a first step, we'd really recommend looking at the ATO website and also reaching out to your tax or BAS agent if required. If you don't have a tax or BAS agent, we do have a network of partners, many of which will be in your local area, and you can find them at partnersearch.reckon.com. That's partnersearch.reckon.com. So as I mentioned at the start, there's quite a lot of people here, so unfortunately we can't open the floor to live questions. However, we have put together some of the frequently asked questions that we've been receiving. So I'll just go through some of these now. The first one here is, what is the deadline for switching to STP2? So you need to complete the STP2 migration checklist and switch to STP2 by September the 30th this year. The second one there is, what is the time frame to submit STP data after a pay run? STP data must be submitted on or before the pay date, and that's the date the employee receives their pay. The next one there is, what if I'm on holidays? Well, if you're on holidays, you need to submit the pay event in advance. Employees can be paid on their pay date. And a couple more here. What happens to the year-to-date data that I've already lodged? They stay as they've been submitted to the ATO. You don't need to edit or resubmit them with the extra information. Can I change back after starting STP Phase 2? No. Once you've started reporting under STP Phase 2, you do need to continue. And the last question there is, when completing the migrating to STP Phase 2 checklist, do I have to submit it all at once? And the answer is no. You can progressively work through it and continue to submit pay runs under STP Phase 1. It's only when you click switch to STP Phase 2 that you have to report it under Phase 2. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic having the opportunity to speak with everyone. I do hope you found some value in the content. If you have any questions about the Reckon software, we do have an online community for Reckon clients, and the link is community.reckon.com. There will be a short survey that pops up at the end of the webinar. We would love to have your feedback about today's session. Thank you so much. That's all from me today, and all the very best. Good luck with your STP2 transition. Thank you.